The mechanic who rebuilt an industry laughter echoed through the hangar as Darius Thompson rolled into Westbrook International Airport in his rusted-out pickup, the kind of vehicle long deemed unsuitable for anywhere near a billionaire's private runway. From behind the tempered glass of the executive terminal, sharply dressed personnel traded looks of disbelief as the 39-year-old African-American mechanic stepped out, his uniform marked by years of honest labor, and his hands calloused from a lifetime of machinery. "That's the expert they called in for Ms. Caldwell's jet?" sneered Brian Whitaker, director of operations at Caldwell Aviation. "We requested the best technician in the region, not someone who looks like he changes oil at a gas station off I-75. Darius heard it. He always heard it. But like every other time, he chose silence over conflict. He'd been through too much to let sneers distract him. What no one knew was that the man beneath the sweat-stained baseball cap had quietly saved more high-end jets than all the certified engineers combined on that runway. Over 15 years of experience and 3 national awards for technical innovation had earned him no favors, just suspicion, especially when the person behind the brilliance didn't look the part. "Ms. Caldwell's flight departs in less than 2 hours," announced the operations lead, keeping a noticeable distance as if proximity would tarnish his press suit. "Our team's been at it all morning. They couldn't identify the issue. If you don't solve it soon, we'll escalate to corporate maintenance out of Charlotte." Darius gave a short nod and walked toward the jet. It gleamed under the morning sun, an ivory Gulfstream G650, price tag north of $60 million. Around him, he felt eyes from behind glass tracking his every step. Some curious, most doubtful, except for one dot from the second-story observation deck. One woman's gaze didn't look down at him, it studied him. It wasn't skepticism. It was scrutiny. Thoughtful. Focused. Just as Darius opened the access panel, her voice rang out above the murmurs, clear and commanding. "Let him work." Heads turned. Victoria Caldwell, 44 and CEO of Caldwell Aviation, descended the tarmac with precision in every step. Her slate blue suit, impeccable, her expression, unreadable. As she neared, she didn't acknowledge Brian or the others. Her attention remained fixed on Darius. "How long?" she asked plainly. "That depends on what I find," Darius answered, meeting her eyes without flinching. "You've got 60 minutes, she said, checking her designer watch. "Impress me." With that, she returned to the terminal, and the scrutiny intensified. Darius knelt by the access panel, flashlight in one hand, diagnostic device in the other. Within seconds, he spotted it, an irregularity so critical it made his stomach knot. The pressurization system wasn't just faulty, it had undergone an improper repair weeks earlier. If the jet had taken off as is, cabin pressure would have failed at cruising altitude. Everyone on board would have lost consciousness and possibly their lives before anyone realized the cause. His hands moved quickly but methodically. Where others saw wires and tubes, Darius saw equations, principles, systems. The quiet hum of logic guiding every twist of the wrench, every calibrated adjustment. He knew what was broken. Because he had built the prototype it was based on. 35 minutes later, he sealed the panel, wiped his hands, and started loading his tools back into the truck. He expected no thanks. There rarely was. In his line of work, perfection wasn't praised. It was expected. But then Victoria Caldwell stepped out again, this time alone. "How long would it have taken them to figure it out?" she asked, arms folded. "They wouldn't have," Darius answered. "The plane would have gone down before they realized it." For a beat, the wind spoke louder than either of them. Victoria studied his face. Her next move stunned the entire hangar. "Come with me." Brian's mouth fell open. Executives whispered. Darius blinked once and followed. They walked into a side wing of the terminal, past areas marked "Authorized Personnel Only." No words. Just footsteps echoing off marble and glass. Inside her private office, a minimalist masterpiece of polished wood and brushed steel, Victoria gestured toward a leather chair across from her desk. She sat behind it, her focus sharp and relentless. "Your full name?" she asked. "Darius Thompson." Her fingers danced across her tablet. A moment passed. Her eyes narrowed. D.T. She murmured. The initials on the engineering schematics for the AeroCore G7 pressurization system. Her voice held a note of revelation. Darius didn't answer, but his hand tightened around the edge of the chair. "You designed it," she said quietly. "3 patents, multiple innovation awards, and a master's in aerospace systems engineering from Norfolk Institute. And yet here you are, wrench in hand, labeled contract labor. Why?" "Because no one's hiring black engineers from Meadow Heights to run innovation teams," he said plainly. "Mechanics get paid. Engineers with the wrong face don't." Victoria opened a drawer. From it, she retrieved a manila folder, placing it between them. Inside were copies of the development records for the G7. On every page, Brian Whitaker's signature as lead designer. "Do you know what this system has earned Caldwell Aviation in the last 5 years?" she asked. $425 million in profits, Darius replied. 23% fuel savings. 31% lower maintenance costs. She blinked. Whitaker got 3 promotions and a $2.7 million bonus. "And I gotta keep my wrench," he said. A knock broke the silence. Without waiting for a response, Brian Whitaker barged in. "Victoria, the board's waiting for you in the conference room," and he stopped mid-sentence when he saw Darius. What's he still doing here? "We were discussing intellectual property," Victoria said smoothly. "Specifically the G7 system." Brian laughed, too loudly. "He's a mechanic. He's the mechanic whose initials are on the original G7 blueprints," she said, holding up her tablet, "and who was terminated 3 days after submitting the final prototype." His smile faltered. "He was just an assistant." "That's not what the metadata on the design files says," came another voice. Dr. Elena Fuentes, Caldwell's legal counsel, entered holding a briefcase. "I verified the timestamped submission logs. They matched Darius Thompson's digital signature." Brian turned a shade lighter. "This is a misunderstanding, Elena," Victoria said. "Please explain what this means for our IP agreements." "It means Mr. Whitaker has falsely claimed authorship of one of our most profitable systems and leveraged it for personal gain," Elena replied. Victoria turned to Darius. "We owe you more than a thank you," she said. "We owe you royalties, public recognition, and a role in the company's future." "What kind of role?" Darius asked. "The one you should have had from the beginning, Director of Innovation." Brian scoffed. "You can't be serious." "The board will be informed in an hour," Victoria snapped. "You're suspended pending a full investigation." Security entered silently. Brian stormed out. Back in her chair, Victoria looked at Darius. "We have 2 weeks until the general shareholder meeting. I need your help to clean this house." "I've got more than help," Darius said. "I've got everything." He reached into his tool case and pulled out a flash drive. Recordings, documents, schematics, and not just mine. There were others, 5 more engineers. All fired after contributing major innovations. Victoria's eyes widened. Elena leaned forward. "You documented all of it?" "Every file. Every theft. I've been collecting for 5 years." Elena stared. "How?" "Because no one ever noticed the quiet mechanic in the corner. For months, they worked quietly. The evidence was overwhelming. Emails, falsified HR records, pay disparity charts, and most damning of all, voice recordings, Brian instructing HR to discredit Darius's credentials. At the shareholder meeting, Victoria took the stage. The crowd expected another quarterly report. Instead, they got a reckoning. Behind her, a massive screen played Brian's voice. "Wipe him from the record. No one's going to believe a black mechanic from the hood wrote that system." Gasps. Silence. Darius stepped forward, not as a victim, but as a leader. "What you heard was reality for years. But it ends now." The company's shares dipped 17% that day. But what came next changed everything. Under Victoria's leadership, Caldwell Aviation created a restitution fund for stolen intellectual property. They launched a national initiative to support underrepresented engineers. And Darius became co-owner of the firm after merging it with his small startup, one he had quietly kept running out of his garage all those years. A year later, the executive floor looked nothing like it once had. Diversity wasn't a slogan, it was a structure. Patents flowed in from minds long ignored. Investors, once skeptical, returned in droves. In the front row at their product launch stood Darius's mother, tears in her eyes. She'd worked as a janitor in office buildings for 25 years to give him a chance. Now, her son stood before hundreds, leading the unveiling of a new propulsion system poised to reshape the aviation industry. You know what justice looks like? Darius said to the crowd. It looks like walking into a room where no one believed you belonged and rebuilding it so the next person doesn't have to fight to get through the door. No one laughed at the mechanic anymore, and no one ever forgot the name Darius Thompson.